Marisol Chesla, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite topic of all time, the history of ballet. Let's start off with the basics. Ballet is defined as a genre of dance that is performed to music with precise and highly formalized movements and gestures. Now, ballet began around the 1500s in Italy during no other period than the Renaissance. The word ballet comes from the Italian word ballare, which translated to English means to dance. Well, now you must be thinking, I thought ballet came from France. All the moves have French names. Since when did it come from Italy? Well, let me tell you how it got to France. Early dance styles related to ballet are introduced to the royal court of France when, well, this may ring a bell. Catherine de Medici married King Henry II of France. From this point on, early forms of dance begin to develop in the royal courts of France until we get to the mid-17th century where we start seeing court ballets. Court ballets were small ballets performed only for royals and nobles. At this point, the typical dance steps you would see in a court ballet in the mid-17th century were not nearly comparable to the ballets performed today. At the beginning of the ballet, the movement mostly consisted of small gestures and curtsies mixed up to somehow tell a story. Typically, only royalty and nobility had been portrayed because these performances were only for them. So the characters were typically as such in order for the story to be relatable and therefore entertaining. Now, you may have heard that a long time ago, only men were allowed to perform in these ballets. And that is actually true. Only males became professional dancers and performed in court ballets, and women's roles were played by men wearing masks. But later on, women slowly trickled into the world of ballet, but would only play secondary roles. Anyway, court ballets reached their peak under the rule of King Louis XIV. The coolest thing about this guy is he often participated in court ballets himself, and did since he was a boy. Actually, scratch that. The real coolest thing about this guy is that he established the Royal Academy of Dance in 1661. This establishment was what introduced the ideals of turnout and rotation in the feet and legs and the signature lift of ballet. It also allowed ballet to continue even after France started to focus less and less on the arts. By 1798, the technique of ballet was becoming more developed, and these ballets were beginning to be presented in front of normal everyday people, which meant that now normal everyday people were being portrayed in these ballets in real-life situations. Also, the ladies start being pushed into the spotlight. In addition, Italy, France, and Russia all begin to develop their own style of ballet. And then we start to enter the many eras of ballet. And we start off with my personal favorite, the Romantic era. Romanticism takes place during the early to mid-1800s. During this period, ballets are going to be very, very focused on telling a story. Rather than the real people, real situations type ballets, these ballets were very fantasy-like and played with the ideas of wanting to run away to far away or imaginary places, deep emotions, as well as individuality. The plots of these stories often included themes like passion over intellect, love of nature, and the belief in supernatural beings like winged spirits such as sylphs and willies. This era also had a specific costume fashion. The romantic tutu was long and flowy, and point shoes were introduced to give the effect of floating. But at this point, they were really just flimsy shoes stuffed with cardboard, not anything like these. Very pleasant experience right there, let me tell you. Some ballets in this area include Giselle, La Sylphide, Paquita, and Capilia. Hello? Who's there? Who's knocking at my door? Okay, Russia. So as we near the end of the 1800s, the classical era of ballet is born. Tsarist Russia enjoyed the art of ballet, but instead of showing emotion, they focused more on clarity, harmony, symmetry, and order. At this point, entertainment was becoming more important than the storytelling. There was more of a showcase of skill and flexibility, and the technique was more sharp and strict. But the thing that made it possible for the movement to develop was the improvement of point shoes. They became sturdier and could hold the dancer up with more support, which allowed for a wider range of movements, especially turns. Now we can come back to the fashion corner, and of course we have our new and improved point shoes, as well as this beautiful, scandalous pancake tutu. This brand new design allows dancers to show off the new developing technique. Some well-known ballets in this era include the Nutcracker, Swan Lake, and Sleeping Beauty, which all happen to have music composed by my good friend, Peter Tchaikovsky. After the classical era of ballet during the early 1900s, we get Ballet Russe. Ballet Russe was a traveling ballet company based in Paris that traveled mainly to North and South America to perform. This company was basically a circle of artists surrounding a Impresionario and founder, I still don't remember his name.
Sergei Diaghilev.
Artists within this circle included Pablo Picasso, Coco Chanel, and Claude Debussy. This ballet company is going to be much different than the ones we've seen before because it's going to create its own ballet pieces, which are going to be short and powerful, unlike the full-length ballets we've seen during the classical and romantic eras. These ballets are going to be influenced by modernist trends and have more real visual sets rather than cardboard ones. Some popular pieces from this company include L'amour du Cygne and Scheherazade. This company is known as the most influential ballet company of the 20th century because of all its groundbreaking collaborations with artists at the top of their field. As we roll into the roaring 20s, Mr. George Balanchine moves to America and reinvents the idea of classical ballet, and this is going to be called neoclassicism. He's going to take advanced Russian technique from the 19th century, which is what we've seen during the classical era of ballet, and he's going to eliminate narrative, theatricality, costumes, and sets. Basically strip it down to the bare minimum and exaggerate it. His technique is going to fill the stage with more turnout, more turns, bigger jumps, faster speed, and a sharper attack. There's going to be more of a range of movement than we've seen so far, as well as more repetition and more geometric positions. By this point, ballet is very physically demanding too, much like the classical era. Popular pieces by Balanchine include Agon in 1957, Apollo in 1928, Four Temperaments in 1946. Then, in the 1980s, we're going to be introduced to contemporary ballet, which is the weirdest, most disturbing thing I have ever seen as a classically trained dancer. At this time, choreographers were still interested in teaching ballet, but dissected and reconstructed technique in unexpected ways. They're going to amplify destabilized moments, which means that they exaggerated imperfect moments, awkward moments in the choreography that people would not usually pay attention to, and put the focus right there. Contemporary ballet choreographers are also going to reevaluate points of origin meaning the beginning of a movement. Because so many more movements and steps are being invented, a whole new movement vocabulary needs to be created. But instead of taking the normal ballet route of naming a step after how it looks or the way it's carried out, they're going to name the steps after the people who created them. During this period, the movement can range from looking fractured and angular to boneless and fluid. The influence of other genres of dance is also prevalent. Contemporary ballet is also going to embrace the use of technology. Performances can include film, animation, 3D architecture, electronic sound, and even virtual dancers. Popular contemporary ballet pieces include In the Middle, Somewhat Elevated. That's a nice name. Over the years, different styles of ballet have developed all over the world. Cecchetti comes from Italy, Vaganova from Russia, Bournonville comes from Denmark. The Royal Academy of Dance method comes from England, and the Balanchine method comes from America. Although ballet has evolved in many different ways from its beginning, many of its forms still remain alive today. I think it's amazing that people will still continue to add on to ballet and reinvent it like contemporary and neoclassicism, but we can still go back and watch romantic and classical ballets and enjoy them just as much today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you the next time I have a history project.